The meeting for the Tangipahoa Parish Council for January 13, 2020 will now come to order. Well, Happy New Year to everybody. That 2020 has a different ring. At this time, we will go into our public hearing. We have one item on the public hearing. That's Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 1963. That's a variance to Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance number 1913 to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on an existing lot of record at 46146 Bridget Road in Hammond, where a 0.5 acre land is required. Anybody wish to speak on that item?
Is that yours, Lon?
No, mine's
Is that yours?
Joyce. Anyone wish to speak on that? If not, we will go into our regular council meeting. We have the invocation by Councilman Lewis Joseph and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Trent Forrest.
Everybody stand, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings we've received. We thank you for our health. Thank you for our strength. We thank you for our peace of mind, our family, and our and Lord, we thank you for this new council as we head into 2020. Give them the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to make all those decisions that are pleasing in your sight. And as we stand here today, we ask that please bless and take care of the family members of first responders, those service members, men and women, lives on the line, so that we may enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy. Lord, if we place them, safe travels back to our various abodes. These blessings and all blessings, ask all the Son, Jesus Christ's name, and all the people respond.
Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag with all veterans and active military. Render the proper salute. Say the pledge of unity.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Before we go into the roll call, I would just like to take this opportunity to welcome our three new council persons aboard, and just say God be with you. Next will be roll call.
Mr. Forrest?
Here.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Here.
Mr. Joseph?
Present.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Here.
Mr. Mayhew? Here. Mr. Wells?
Here.
Mr. VL?
Here.
Ms. Hyde? Here. Mrs. Coates? Here.
Thank you. The next item, we would like to ask if you have cell phones or any other electronic devices, if you would please mute them or turn them off. We would appreciate it very much. Next item is adoption of our minutes of our regular meeting, December the 23rd, 2019.
So move.
We have a motion by Councilman Villa, second by Councilman Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Ms. Coates? Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is public input. Anybody wishing to address the agenda items that were not on the public hearing? All right, next will be our election of officers for 2020. First office will be that of chairman. We're now.
I'll move.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Carlo Bruno as chair of the council.
I'll second.
We have a motion of Councilman Carlo Bruno.
Move nomination be closed.
We have a motion by Councilman Ridgel that the nomination be closed.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Forrest that the nomination be closed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Ms. Coates? Yes.
All right, the motion is carried. The next is for the Vice President of the Council for 2020.
I'd like to nominate Mr. David Villa.
We have a motion for Councilman David Villa.
Second.
We have a second.
2 seconds.
Mr. Rich.
It don't matter.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Rich.
Motion to close nomination.
We have a motion by Councilman Forrest,
Second.
a second by Councilman Bruno to close the nomination. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. VL?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Ms. Coates? Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next off is clerk of the council.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Christian McElrath.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Forrest.
I move the nomination be closed.
I have a motion by Councilman Bruno that the nomination be closed. Councilman Mayhew, that was nomination be closed. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell? Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Ms. Coates? Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Council President Bruno will now reside.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Wells for his service last year. He led us through. When you're the chairman of an election year, it's kind of tough, and he did a superb job. And I want to give all the kudos to him for last year.
Don't let that go to your head, Mr. Wells.
No, it won't. It's already big enough. Thank you.
Second of all, I want to address the three new councilmen. I know it's a monumental task that y'all are taking over. I know you feel like a deer in the headlights, but believe me, it's not as bad as you think it is. Everybody on this board is willing to help y'all at any time. So if y'all have any questions or you run into something that you don't think you can figure out, you can call any one of the people on this board, because we're here to work together. Everybody's here to help one another to make the parish better. The only other thing I want to say, I like to read quotes. I do that at night. That's my thing. I look on the computer and I like to read quotes. And there's a quote I saw last night. It's very short, and I'd like that to be kind of like our mantra for this year. And it says, the future depends on what we do in the present. So what we do over the course of this next year is really going to set the pace of what happens this 4 years. So I look forward to working with everybody. And like I said, let's do what we got to do to make the parish move forward. Okay? All right, let's get to the regular parish president's report.
Good evening. We have one item on the agenda. It is the approval of the annual bids for public works. The bids are in your packet. It pertains to limestone, gravel, sand, sign posts, sign material, fuel, cold mix, hot mix, culverts, bridge material, janitorial supplies, pest control, and various other items that are used for public works throughout the year.
Okay, this is our normal procedure.
So move.
Who was that?
Vial.
Motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Joseph. And a list is available if any of the councilmen,
Yes, sir. And actually, there's a bid
Attached.
tab sheet in your packets.
if anybody has any questions on that, you can contact the administration, but this is our yearly bid, so it's just standard procedure. Roll call?
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ritchell?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Ms. Coates? Yes.
Okay, regular business,
If you
number,
don't mind,
oh, excuse me.
if I can make a note, I'd like to congratulate you on your election.
Thank you.
Mr. Vial being the chair. Thank you, Mr. Wells, for the year, actually the 2 years that we had together over the last term. It was very easy working with you, and I really appreciate that. To our new members, as I've told you before, please call on the administration. We're always here for you. We have to work as a team. I believe that if we work together, council and the administration, that we will absolutely continue to push our parish forward to be the best parish in the state. So if you have any questions for me, please just let us know.
Yeah, one quick comment.
Yes, sir.
I've been knowing Chris Louis all my life. My lawyer when I was school system. But I don't know, some of these people may not know, you might want to do this, Chris.
Okay, as we all know, Mr. Cliff Speed retired last meeting, and as of now, and maybe for the foreseeable future, Mr. Chris Moody is going to be the legal counsel for the parish council and the administration through the district attorney's office. Mr. Scott Parley assigned Chris to be here with us. So welcome, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for pointing that out. That was a big miss on my part.
Carlo Bruno's place.
Yeah, well, I'm not, it's no longer the BS law firm. I'm not sure how to do that.
That's a big shoe to fill.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move into regular business number 3, adoption of TP ordinance number 1963, a variance to Tangipahoa ordinance number 1913 to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on an existing lot of record at 46146 Bridget Road, Hammond, Louisiana, where a .5 acres of land is required.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mayhew. Second by Mr. Rishtel. Roll call.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ristel? Yes. Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Hyde? I'm sorry, Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 4, introduction of TP ordinance number 20-01, an ordinance to grant a variance to TP ordinance number 1913, mobile home placement standards for Christine Williams at 17066 East Coleman Avenue, Hammond.
Mr. Chairman, that was in my district, and the problem is the problem that we've been having lately with some areas of a certain district that had these subdivisions back in the 1920s, and the lots are small. But this lady has done everything she could to meet all our standards. So I make a motion that we.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. Joseph, to introduce ordinance number 2001. Roll call.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ristel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Okay, that will come up for approval on January 27th. Number 5, introduction of TP ordinance number 2002, an ordinance to revise and amend Chapter 17, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances recording Planning Commission meeting dates. We have somebody from the Planning Commission. Bridget, you want to let us know what's going on with that?
This is being introduced to change the Planning Commission meeting date from the second Tuesday of the month to the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
Just sometimes there's a conflict with the Parish Council meeting gets pushed off from a Monday to a Tuesday, and both meetings are at the same time. And there are items on the agenda at times that you guys would like for us to be present.
Okay.
So if we moved it to opposing weeks, that would help.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't know why, but I read this agenda several times, and some kind of way I missed that item. I don't know what it was, and I was wondering. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to the person that I appointed to the parish planning commission. So, if it'd be all right with Bridget and David, if we would table it to the next meeting.
Bridget, have you spoken with all the members?
I brought this to the planning commissioners to ask if this date change would be in accordance with what they could still make the meetings, and they were in agreement with that date being agreeable to them as well. If we moved it to the first Tuesday of every month rather than the second Tuesday.
So you have talked to each one of them?
I have, yes, sir. 'Cause
You good, Mr. Wells?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm good now, but I didn't know that.
It's just introduction, correct?
Yes.
I have a question. So, does anyone here know how that will affect the staff? Because whenever they meet, I'm sure the staff is involved some kind of way, huh?
Well, Bridget attends those meetings, is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah.
Are you the only one from the staff that attends?
there's another one of my staff members that actually is a secretary, and this date change doesn't affect them either. I mean, it would be in accordance, this was discussed, I think, last month and at length with those that this would affect, and the commissioners actually said there's one, I had two of them that the second Tuesday of the month is conflicting with another community meeting they have to attend. So moving it to the first meeting actually helps a couple of the commissioners be able to attend it more regularly, and my staff doesn't have an opposition to that.
So this movement should really help us to have a quorum.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I'm concerned is because, some of these boards, it's really tough to get people to serve.
Well, that's the problem that they're having, that a lot of them, that second Tuesday is a problem.
Conflict with
But the
another
first
meeting
Tuesday
they
would be
have to
better, to get us more people at that meeting. All right, we got a motion by VL, second by, anybody?
I'll say.
Forrest. Roll call.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, appointment, reappointment to the Tangipahoa Parish Library Board of Control. We have one here, and I think this is in Mr. Wells's district. Mr. Wells, you want to?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and to the council, Dr. Bobby Martin, he already was serving on the Friends of the Library Board, and I think he'll be an excellent member.
Have a motion by Mr. Wells,
Second.
second by Mr. Mayu. Roll call.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Motion passes. Beer, wine, and liquor, we have one. It is L&L Family Grocery and Deli, 56388 LA Highway 445, Hustler, Louisiana. This is a change in occupancy, ownership. That's the family grocery.
That's in my district. I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Ingraffia,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Vial. Roll call.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Motion passes. Legal matters?
Oh, I thought you usually gave that.
No.
Wait till he get to know you.
I probably won't be having regular reports because I know Mr. Speed didn't, but I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank you for letting me be a part of your team. I have been watching your meetings the last many months. I have Brad Cassio in my office, was here earlier, and he and Al Giro may be helping me assist in your work. I do want to say I'm very impressed by the professionalism about your council and your administration. I've met with Mr. Speed, gotten all his files. I've met with the administration, and I look forward to working with each one of you. And I want to say I'm very impressed by how efficiently you run your meetings.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, councilman's privileges? Yes, sir.
Go Tigers.
Which one?
LSU.
Okay. Any other councilman's privilege? If not, there's one thing I do need to mention. On the next agenda, we have to take up the issue of an auditor for our audit for last year. So that item will be on the agenda for the next meeting for discussion and possibly hiring of the auditor. So, Kristen, we got to make sure that's on. All right, I'll entertain your... Hey, guess who can do that now?
I will take full advantage of this privilege. Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn this meeting and go home and watch the LSU Tigers play football.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Wells. Do I have a second?
Second here.
Second by Mr. Vial. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.